So, one of my favorite things in college football recruiting is when I get to see two institutions who are bitter rivals going after the same prospect because that battle just means more to the fan base and to everybody involved. And it always creates such a fun environment to be able to watch. And today, we're going to talk about one such battle because one of the nation's top players and a 4-star wide receiver out the state of Texas, a top 20 wide receiver in the nation, and a top 150 player in all of high school football, Jaden Greathouse, has released his top 4. And in that top 4 contains Notre Dame, Texas, Oklahoma, and South Carolina, and we have got to break this all down. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. And given that Jaden Greathouse is from the state of Texas, do you believe that he will be leaving Texas to play his collegiate football? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, like and comment down below, as those interactions, though seemingly small, are incredibly impactful for content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But having said all of that, let's jump right into this because this is a battle I'm going to be watching closely for several different reasons. First and foremost, we can talk about the talent Jaden Greathouse possesses, in which case he's 6'2", 200 pounds plus, and is currently rated as a top 200 player in all of high school football and a top 20 wide receiver. He comes from a program that has been synonymous with success in Austin Westlake, and he had a quarterback just recently that is set to do great things at the collegiate level in Cade Klubnik. So this is a prospect I'm very interested in seeing going forward. But that's only compounded when we take a look at this top 4 and look at the battles present here in between Notre Dame, South Carolina, and then of course the bitter rivalry that is Texas and Oklahoma. So let's dive into the top 4 teams and talk about it. So with Notre Dame has been recruiting on a really high level right now, and that's not totally unsurprising. Notre Dame is an elite brand in college football, and Marcus Freeman in his first year wants to make a statement, and what a better way to do that than continuing to recruit at a high level so that you can't be ignored. And not only has Notre Dame recruited at a high level, but they've recruited in that area, that Austin, Texas area, very well. In fact, they just went to the Austin area and pulled a top 100 player in all of high school football, Braylon Jones. So this is a program that has had success recruiting and had success in that region. That's something we have got to watch because now they've established some sort of familiarity with Greathouse. And those relationships, though seemingly small, can be incredibly impactful. South Carolina is in a really unique position in terms of there's a lot of excitement around their program right now. Spencer Rattler comes in and is the heir apparent at the quarterback position, and having a quarterback like that is sure to excite prospects even if they're not going to be playing with him because he can start putting South Carolina back on the right track. And Beamer has done a really solid job there thus far. Because of that, when you look at the way South Carolina has been inserting themselves into several different battles across the nation, when you look at what Beamer has been able to do in such a short stint, and then when you look at the season they could have, and I'm not claiming they're going college football playoffs, I'm claiming that they could be an improved team and continue improving, which at the end of the day, that's how it starts. When you combine all of those, it can be put together in an intriguing package, and that's one reason we've got to watch South Carolina moving forward, not only in this battle, but the program as a whole, because I think there's a lot of intrigue and deserved intrigue around it. And I left these two as the last two for a specific reason, because this is our bitter rivalry, and we need to jump right into it. And we will start with the Texas Longhorns because they're the in-state institution, and they don't have to go far for Jaden Greathouse. This is someone who's in their backyard, and Texas has been successful at getting in offensive weapons. I mean, my goodness gracious, just look at the offensive weapons they possess right now, and that's certainly not our question with the Texas Longhorns. They have an arsenal in Austin right now of weapons. Our questions lie outside of that. However, if you want to continue putting up high numbers on offense and having prolific offenses, these top-level offensive prospects are how you do it. And Steve Sarkisian is in a position where he just had a freshman wide receiver go for a whole lot of yards. Now, Xavier Worthy's a very talented prospect, one that would probably be successful in college football no matter where he went, but Steve Sarkisian has done this before. This isn't just a one-off with Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy's a talented prospect. Nobody's taking that away from him, but Steve Sarkisian has been able to put up big numbers with wide receivers before, and that's something that he's utilizing on the recruiting trail, and it's working. Look at the wide receivers they've pulled, both in terms of transfer portal acquisitions and through traditional recruiting means, and you can see that that's an area where wide receivers are intrigued. And further than Steve Sarkisian, because even though that's a real point, is Brennan Marion. And that's where I think this gets really interesting in terms of Texas recruiting wide receivers, is Brennan Marion. Brennan Marion, coming from Pitt, offers the Longhorns somebody who I think college football needs to be very aware of. And furthermore, when we look at the wide receiver room from Pitt right now, if we're not talking about the transfer portal drama, we're talking about the numbers Jordan Addison just put up in that system. And now Brennan Marion finds his way from Pitt to Texas, and that's going to be something exciting that the Texas Longhorns look to try and pitch to multiple recruits. But if we're talking about exciting pitches, well, Oklahoma's right there as well, because there is so much palpable excitement around Norman right now with the coaching hires they've made. Brent Venables is the new head coach. Jeff Lebby is the offensive coordinator. And speaking of Jeff Lebby as the offensive coordinator, this 6'2", 200+ pound wide receiver fits the bill of what Jeff Lebby liked to have while he was at Ole Miss. And because of that, that's going to be an instant pitch Lebby's going to utilize in this battle. Or at the very least, if I was Jeff Lebby, that's how I'd be utilizing it. I'd be telling Jaden Greathouse, look, you have size you just can't teach. And I've been an offensive coordinator in the collegiate game that has been able to utilize wide receivers similar to your build and put them in really great positions. And that's going to be a recruiting pitch that has weight to it. So that's something we need to watch. On top of the excitement around Norman right now, and I talk about this at length, how you can recruit off of hype. That's not a problem at all, especially when you have a new head coach at your institution. It's only natural to recruit off of hype because we haven't seen that individual coach a game for the Sooners, and that's perfectly fine. But whenever we're really breaking this down, it's not just the coaching moves, and it's not just the moves currently happening in Norman that are generating excitement, but it's also what's happening on the recruiting trail. Because we've talked about players on the precipice of 5-star range before, and Oklahoma currently has one in their recruiting class at such a crucial position, especially for a battle such as this, and that's the quarterback position. And that's Jackson Arnold, the 4-star prospect out of Denton Guyer High School right here in Denton, Texas. And let me tell you something. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. So Oklahoma fans, I sincerely apologize. This kid is within striking distance of 5-star status. Not only is he within striking distance of 5-star status, he plays for a premier high school in a premier high school football league in the state of Texas, which is home to premier high school football. When you combine all of that he's receiving good coaching, that he's already such a solid prospect, in striking distance of 5-star range, when he plays in a division that's sure to give him the eyes, and when he has camps and a full year ahead of him, it is completely feasible to think that Jackson Arnold finishes as a 5-star, and he's not the only quarterback to watch as well. Eli Holstein is one that I would keep an eye on as well for that 5-star push, because this class is insanely top-heavy for quarterbacks, and we've talked about that before. However, I digress. Oklahoma's been quite successful with wide receivers in the past. We know this, and when we currently look at what they have a ton of excitement in the wide receiver room. Marvin Mims is going to be a prospect that pro scouts are watching closely this year. So with all that, very interested in hearing from y'all. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. That's it. See ya.